We have a real special treat for the Stoxpoker SNG junkies. We've recently had some member feedback on more low stakes buy-ins, and Deuterino AB posted an awesome member video of himself for tabling the 10 or 15 games, and I decided to outdo him by four tabling the $6 games. So check this out, and what we have is in the top tables, we've got high blinds going on, and when these got the high blinds, I started two new games in the bottom, which are on during low blinds, and that is something that I do when I'm playing my normal stakes, any stakes really. And the reason I do it is because the high blind decisions are where all the real money is decided. And because of that, I want to have as many tables, as much time as possible to concentrate on these more important decisions. And I don't want to have all of my most important decisions going on at once. So if I can multi-table anyway, I like to stagger it rather than start all my tables at once. Now, the main adjustment I'm going to be making during low blind play is I'm going to be playing a lot more for value, and I'll bet when I think I've got good value. And I will also pretty much limp with any pocket pair from any position if it's low blinds and it's free to do so. Just the minimum bet to do so. Okay, in the top left table, we have a pot of 320, and I'm looking to play a small pot here. So if he checks the turn, I'll bet the turn now because I've also have a gut shot, and I really don't think he has the ace. But basically, I'm not looking to play a big pot on the bubble with the chip leader and a weak top pair. If he had raised me or continued on, I would be looking for the cheapest showdown possible. Now, in this situation, we have a min raiser from Caballero, and it's tough to say exactly what that means. Different guys, the min raise will mean different things. I'm going to give that one a lay down because I haven't seen a min raise before, and that would be a borderline resteal. Couldn't go too wrong either way there. In the low blind tables, basically, anytime I've got a hand, I'm going to keep on betting for value. And when I don't have a hand, I'm not going to try to bluff guys out. I'm just going to try to play a very straightforward game. And that's usually what you're going to find pays off. Just betting for value and playing very much hit to win player cards and a much more straightforward style of poker. And during the high blind phase, I'm going to know that guys will potentially call my raises wider, and they're not going to have as good knowledge of ICM and of equity versus chips. So I'm going to try to not look to push guys out because I think that they're going to make very, very straightforward calls and not necessarily chips versus equity. In the upper left table now, I re-steal with the ace-jack because it's the second time in 2 orbits that this guy's come in for a re-steal. And ace-jack is a premium hand in 4-way play. And that guy made a pretty big mistake being willing to commit all of his chips with king-jack because I haven't been playing a super loose style. And he had to figure that he wasn't really going to be a big favorite with the king-jack when I'm willing to put all my chips in like that. So again, we were patient, we waited for a good hand, and it paid off there because we ended up seeing the flop as a nice favorite. The bottom right table now, I am going to be looking to make a raise for value and also to buy the button. So I want position after the flop. And if we see a flop with one other guy, that's okay. If we win right now, that's also good. If it's folded to me in this upper right table, I'm going to shove because we're playing for under 10 blinds. But I'm not going to be the one to call the shove. Okay, obviously we're going to play for our entire stack in the bottom right table with an overpair. And you can either shove now, that wouldn't be a big mistake, or I'll probably just come in and make what looks like a standard value bet that he could go over. If you did want to shove right there, that'd be fine. Okay, with King Queen, I would raise most likely from the position of where Kelvin 791 is, as is was pretty borderline, and it wouldn't be a big mistake to come in with a raise there, maybe suited. And the upper left table now I'm going to complete with about a 20 blind stack deep, getting 3 to 1 with an ace. If he checks behind me, I'm going to bet the turn. It's unlikely that the king's helped him, and this is a pretty standard line of mine that if I complete and I check the flop because I missed it and I think a guy is going to be kind of loose, if he checks behind, I'm almost always going to fire out at the turn, because once he's shown weakness by checking before the flop and checking after the flop, I don't want to be a nit and I want to attack him. And that's one thing that's pretty constant between the lower blinds and the higher blinds. Okay, now I'm getting 2 to 1 on this raise with position, and I'm not going to come in for all my chips because the risk to reward ratio isn't there. And you could fold here, but I think I'm going to call, and I'm going to play again, hit to win. I'm going to shove in the top right with 6 blinds and my ace jack. I've missed this flop, so I'll check fold it. If he had checked, I may have considered coming in with a small bet of around 800 like he did, but as is, I was pretty much playing to hit the jack or the king. And that's a fine trade-off there. If you did re-steal, it wouldn't be such a terrible play, but I want a better risk-reward ratio before I'm going to do that. I won't complete in the upper left with total trash. Okay, ace-4 is not good enough to defend with, so I'm going to let that go. I let that go even to a min-raise. I'm just not looking to play low offsuit aces out of position. That's not going to be a very profitable strategy. And I'll shove the 5 king if it's folded to me, because we'd be playing for about 6 blinds. I'd shove any king. And I'm not going to re-steal. I would want probably an ace-10 I'd re-steal with. And I'm not going to play the 5 king now that somebody's already opened the pot. Okay, there'd be absolutely no reason to bluff in the bottom right table. In the upper left, I will complete with the weak king. Big John has not been re-raising me a lot when I've limped. And mid-pair is usually best in heads up. I'm just going to go right ahead and bet it. And if he gives me action, I may get out of the hand, but I really think my hand's best, and I'm happy to play that. And you'll notice that we can really pay up most of our attention to these upper tables, and the lower tables we have more standard low blind decisions, and particularly when we get to heads up or three-handed relatively early like we have in the upper left table, you don't want to have a whole bunch of really tough decisions going on at the same time, and that's why I like, again, staggering these tables. The 10-4 I wouldn't complete anyway because it's too weak a hand, and I will not complete most likely with the deuce jack. If it were suited, that would be one thing, but deuce jack offsuit really has no post-flop potential. You know, when you're playing to hit 2-pair or trips, it's usually a sign that you need better hand. Okay, these guys play a pot for all their chips, and we gain enormously from that because now we're heads up. We're guaranteed to do at least second. So we're obviously very happy at Nanan Chico's victory there. And we'll certainly check behind with 6 deuce. If he checks the flop, we'll most likely fire out any turn. And if he bets the flop, it's his. Okay, we've got a few choices in the upper left. We could either fold or complete. I'm not looking to raise there. Nan and Chico hasn't been raising a lot. Sorry about that. Nan and Chico hasn't been raising a lot, and because of that, I think it's unlikely that he's going to come over the top. And if he does begin doing that, we'd be a lot less likely to limp on him. To complete the bet, we pretty much revert to raise fold poker. And here I'm going to come in for a small raise. We're playing about 13 blinds deep, so that's too steep. Unless we had maybe deuces, we would come in for an all-in. Other than that, we're not looking to. And with king queen, we'd be happy to get it all in. Say he raises to 900, we would re-steal all in. If he limped, we would have raised him. King king, we're going to make a value bet, and oftentimes in the higher stakes I play, I'll come in with something smaller. Maybe I would have made a cuter raise to 180, 200. Here I'm going to come in for a standard full raise to 3 times the blind. In the upper right corner with 4 blinds, I'm going to shove my 7 queen suited. And I'm going to re-steal with my suited ace-9. That's too strong a hand to let go and heads up. So if we fold, that's great, and if he calls, usually we're going to be the favorite. And just a really strong hand and heads up play. And when he folds, that's incredible because we get a free 1,200 chips with no gamble. And with ace king, we're happy to gamble again, so we're going to make a raise that he can go over, and if not, we'll be getting a pot in position with a premium hand. And he does want to gamble. Very nice. So that's not so bad a play on his part, actually. Whatever. Because, he was the guy who was shoving rather than the one who was calling. We could have folded. We had a much better average than average hand, and we really didn't need that strong a hand to make a steal. So considering that he was the aggressor and he had a hand that played pretty well, again, sorry about that, that played pretty well after the flop, I don't think that he made a big mistake by re-stealing there. And as was, it was only like a 40-60 dog. Okay, so we take second on that one. With the aces, this would be the one time when I might make a slightly smaller value bet, because if we see a flop, and most it's going to be against 1 or 2 opponents, and we're not playing deep enough that we really have to worry about a guy getting set value playing with a small pair of suited connectors. The 9s, however, will go back up, I think, to the 300, 275 standard bet. And if Edge Harris, you dog, comes over top, we'll certainly call. If Shipface or TJ does, we'll have a tougher decision. But I think most likely we're pretty committed to that hand. Can call with the 9-8. And Killer Reed most likely has some kind of a hand as well, because he's raising under the gun, so we classify that as a steal raise rather than a value raise. We'll shove the queen if it's folded to us. We'd shove any queen, pretty much almost any 2 cards there, but when double up limps, we can no longer play because he could just call too loose. Here there's no need to get fancy. We've got 2 guys already looking to play. We'll just shove. And I am getting some crazy good cards there. It's like the 3rd high pocket pair I've gotten in 2 orbits. Pretty sweet. I moved down to the 6s and suddenly I can't lose by the cards. So that's cool. No, okay, we're up. This is a great situation for us because unless they're running 10s or an 8, we've got it. So it's about as good a place to get your money in as possible. And we're just notice, okay, at the upper right table, the blinds are 200, 400, so we only have 3 blinds left. We need to force a play. Otherwise, we're going to blind it out. So if I had been dealt chunk this hand, I would have pushed within that hand, or by the time it had gotten to double up, a rich 1 for a 1. It's 7 king suited is definitely strong enough to play here. and Jay Montana's going to need some kind of hand to spike in good pot odds because he's not going to want to be the bubble boy. And we're threatening him for most of a stack. Okay, now we're in the bubble at the 50-100 bottom left table. I'm going to come in for a standard blind stealing raise with a decent ace. And that takes it. And against guys who are new to be tighter, I'd probably have stolen with a 9-10 as well. But we've got Birdman 1 to our left, the big stack, which kind of sucks. You never want the big stack 1 to your left, but not much you can do there. And we'll just be looking to play hands that have some kind of value, and then we can show down with if it comes to that. Okay, if Rios checks, we'd bet with our bottom pair. But since he let out, even if we're ahead, he most likely has some kind of draw to beat us, so there's no point in getting involved. Unfortunately, we cannot call bottom right or top right. And top right, we're now on the bubble again. And you know he's making it 19 effectively, and the pot's 23. It costs us 15 to call. And those odds of around 3 to 2 aren't good enough. We will shove the suited queen if it's folded to us. And double up, who is an HBL, a high blind limper. We can't play against him. His stack is too big. You just call with anything. So we are looking to play a pot there rather than a blinded out. And we semi-bluffed our queen eye flush draw. After that, we're done with the pot. If we hit a flush or possibly a queen, we might continue. Other than that, let the chip leader have his pot. TJ Patience is about to bust. And there's no reason to look to bluff. Okay, we're going to have to push in the dark on Rich because otherwise we're getting blinded out. We're not getting blinded out. We actually are almost already blinded out. I hadn't realized that the blinds are about to move up to 255. I don't normally play on full tilt. And we don't like the fact, obviously, that double up is shoved on us. But this is a clear pot odds call. Meanwhile, we're going to raise our sevens for value on the button. Okay, so we're about a 2-1 underdog. Strong. Oh! Okay, nice. We suck out. So it was a mistake of me to limit my stack, hit 2.5 blinds, and that would not have happened on a Stars game. Gucci is a high blind limper, so we're going to come over top of him, and with the 300 on the table, that's almost a quarter of our stack. We'll just shove. We would obviously call for another 455 of double up and reshoved, but we can't call that. Yeah, like I said, don't let yourself get blinded out, and always pay attention to when the blinds are going to go up, and that was certainly one mistake that I made in the upper right table. Ace Jack again. Pretty nice. For a king, we're going to shove. We'd shove pretty widely here, almost any two, and any king more than qualifies. There's no reason not to check our option with a 10-7. We'll play that for value. And we're going to make a standard blind stealing raise with our ace jack. And these guys have actually been playing a bit more tighter than I would have expected for a really low stakes game. Okay, we'd push pretty wide in the upper right since now everybody's more even stacked on the bubble and people are going to be calling very narrow, but we won't push 8-3. Bottom left, we're just looking to hit our straight, and no straight, no bet. If Rich just completes, we would shove on him, but he shoves, and we're sure as hell not calling with 6 high. We'll complete with suited 7-10, which is decent post-flop potential, and Birdman really hasn't been raising on us a lot. So Good time to see a flop. And I think here we're just bet out. We've got mid pair and a redraw to a straight. If he wants to give us a lot of action, again, we won't play for the same reason as earlier. TJ Patience looks like he's going to get blinded out real soon. Oh, the blinds are 3-6 in the upper right. Moving up constantly. We really need to shove pretty soon. We could have let one more orbit go by. If I had been down chunk, I would have folded there. But suited ace holds up well enough that we'll shove for 5 blinds. And we get a walk in the big blind, which is very nice. If it's folded to us, we'll shove the queen. And what I'm actually going to do here is I don't want him to think that I'm just shoving on him every time, which I am. So I'll make a bet that looks like it could be for value so he doesn't think, hey, this guy's just shoving on me, and make an ego call. You want to make it easy for a blind that you're attacking to fold to you. And to do that, make him think, hey, you know, this guy could be betting for value, and that just makes it a more friendly steal. Let's put it that way. Never pressure a guy into calling when you don't want him to call. Ace 10 is more than good enough, and we're gonna. Oh, well, it's not good. Yes, okay. Once again, I suck out the $6 buy-ins. Okay, against Birdman, I'm going to be throwing out a bet because there's a flush draw, a straight draw, and now I'm going to check call. If he throws out any reasonable bet, I'll call. But if I lead out, I'm going to be in a really tough position if he raises me. And I don't like that bet. I'm going to have to fold the 9. I don't have the odds to call with that king. And yeah, so we had a pot odds call we had to make. I'm going to shove my suited queen. I would shove pretty much any king, any suited queen there. And a 10 high is good enough to shove. Again, against the Birdman, we prevented ourselves from going broke on the bubble. Ooh, up against kings. Okay. And another shove with the ace-7. Come in for a smaller raise with a suited 9 queen. And the 9 king, that might actually be very borderline plus equity. I think I'm a lot better than these guys, so I'm going to decline it. But it wouldn't be any kind of a real mistake. If you wanted to shove that, we've got to make a pot odds call. King 9. And that suited queen hand in the bottom left, we had to play that because of the pot odds we were being offered after we had come in with our initial bet. Okay, I'd probably show the 5-6 if it had been folded to us. With the razor, we'll just let that go. Blinds of 400, 800. We pretty much don't have any room to sit back at all. We got to be pushing very wide, and any ace more than qualifies. Pushing about 4 blinds deep. And here you could fold or complete. It's not really a big deal either way. Again, Birdman just hasn't been punishing my limps at all. And my 9 high has no showdown value, so I'll bet. If he plays back, okay, good. If you bet back, that would be it. And if we take it right then, that's great, because that's the only chance we have of winning the pot. And this is kind of awkward stack sizes, because Rye has right about 10 blinds. Normally I'd steal with that. It's a little awkward. You could come with a steal. I think I'll just fold. And our 7s were taken out with at the upper right table. But I think we played that well. And we still managed to money there. Gucci is our HBL. We've seen that several times before. And we're just going to shove on him. There's 500 on the table. We have a very solid hand. He could certainly call us with a hand that we're coin flipping with. Or even though we have beat, such as King Queen. and he just lays it down. So we get 500 chips without a fight. Pretty nice. Respect that, you know? Tins, you know, this guy is raising under the gun. I think, though, we're just going to shove on him, and only if we had a read that he was super tight would we fold here. So we don't like the fact that he's under the gun making this play, but tens are too strong a hand to let go with a stack of under 10 times, under 10 big blinds. And he made a pot committing raise but just folded, so that was a mistake on his part, and it worked out well for us. Now we're going to raise the eights, a standard blind stealing raise. And with these fours, this is we have more than we would like just to shove. We could either shove or come in for a pretty strong raise, and either one's okay. If he calls, we'll be shoving most flops unless it has, you know, maybe ace, jack, nine with two spades, something like that. And if you wanted to just shove there, wouldn't it be a big mistake? Okay, we were called in this hand, and I'm going to throw out a bet for pretty much his entire stack because his stack is less than the size of the pot. If he's got an ace, then all the power to him. We made a bad play, but okay, I'm sure he has an ace, but now I've got to call for pot odds. One thing there, you know, we definitely wouldn't have committed ourselves to the hand if he had had a larger stack. But when he has a stack that's literally a fraction of the pot, and there's only one overcard to our eights, even if that overcard's an ace, I think we're pretty much going to be playing that. If I had a read that he was super tight, then I wouldn't like it. If you do check those eights though, and he checks behind, then pretty much you got to bet the turn. Okay, our queen has some minimal showdown value. I mean, our pair of sevens, but we're going to call this. This is a tough one because we're getting decent odds, and it is heads up. I think you couldn't go too wrong either way. I'm going to call and see what he has. Most likely repeat, but it is heads up, and only a jack or an ace really beats us. So he has the jack. Really didn't think he had a pocket pair. So that leaves the jack or the ace. Suited 9-10 will just shove with a stack of around 7 or 8 blinds. And the 6 king, if he limps, we're just going to shove this because the king really doesn't play well after the flop. And 600 is a lot of chips to win without a fight. You win 600 immediately with a stack of like 2,500. You've done pretty good for yourself. So Birdman is a little passive, and we'll be looking to exploit that. Okay, in the bottom right, we really need to make a move soon. And this is kind of debatable for blinds. Meanwhile, we'll definitely push the fives again. That's too strong a hand not to play, even though we just made a move recently. And I'm going to come in for what looks like a blind stealing raise with the king. Again, that's a little debatable. We will be blinded out if we don't make a move, and I really don't like doing it with this hand. So with the 9-10, I'm going to call, getting 3-1 in position. And that's a bad bet on his part before the flop. I'm just going to make him pay if he wants. If he's got a better 10 or an overpair, then good for him. Heads up, we're not willing to worry about that. And even if he has a really strong hand, he shouldn't just min-raise out of position because he is offering us 3-1 in position. And we're going to be calling that so widely that even if he has a hand like pocket queens, he should raise to at least 2.5 or 3 blinds. It's very rare heads up out of position. You're not cool just to win immediately. Suited king queen. A few ways we can play this. We could just shove, or we can make a standard raise. I'll raise it to 1,000. And we were pretty aggressive with him, but this is too strong a hand to let go in high blind heads up play. Okay, we hit it, and we'll definitely bet to get value off our top pair. There are also a couple of possible gut shots and a possible flush, so we're not going to check and let him check behind. Actually, 1100 may be a bit big because it's going to be tough for him to bluff raise if he has a worse hand. But that's fine. That's better than just checking. And if he's got the 8 or a better queen, he'll stack us no matter what. So then it wouldn't matter how you play. 7 king isn't quite good enough to steal with under the gun, and Mendicap with his 600 left is very unlikely to lay it down. Possible, but he could easily just correctly make a pot odds call. And I'll call with my king. Guinea makes an ill-advised raise, and we've got to call that due to pot odds. And if Mendicap shoves, we'll have to call because it'll be another 230. Okay, we're not even involved in the upper left. In fact, even if Gucci and Mendicap shove, we would still have a mandatory pot odds call. It's called a crying call. And the 9-10, bit borderline. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in for all my chips. Oh, we're ahead, the bottom right. 9-4 takes the lead going into the flop. Very nice. And this is about the worst hand in the upper left that I'd be making that play with. So like 8-10 I win. Even 9-10's low borderline. I'm not going to play the 3-jack. Queen-jack I'll definitely shove on if it is folded to me. The 7-king, if I hadn't just stolen, I would repop them all in. Now I think he may have whined a little because I keep on doing it. And with my mid pair, I am just going to come out and fire. And a pot was open. If Towson was a really laggy player, then I might come over top and try to isolate him with my queen jack, but we don't have that read. And his hand is kind of mediocre. Calvin makes a good call with the 8-king because he was getting really good pot odds, and his hand didn't look to be that big a dog. Suited 5-7, pretty iffy. We could either fold or shove that. Can't go too wrong either way. It really depends on the read. BD8 has an any2 call, which she does correctly. Hey, these $6 guys really aren't as bad as I was anticipating. So I think some of you low stakes players may be surprised when you move up in buy-in how bad you'll find some guys playing at even like 300 buy-in tables. You're gonna find a lot of donks there, and just any stakes if you look for them. And I don't know, I just was expecting a total donk fest at these sixes, and these guys have played, not super bad. 7-4, we really need to play there. I think that's going to be a little too weak, though. We're just going to shove a suited queen with 9 blind effective stacks. I think like offsuit, a low offsuit queen, I wouldn't shove there, but that'll qualify. If Birdman had limp that, we would shove that pocket pair. And an 8-3 is too weak to play. After the 250 blinds hit us, then we have to shove in the subsequent orbit or also be blinded out. And we're going to have to make a pot odds call here. He's paying 12.15, so the pot's close to 2K. It's about 700 for us to call. We're getting nearly 3-1 with an ace. And there's just no way we're going to be able to, it'd be a dumb fold. We could even be ahead. Okay, he's got 10s. We stuck out again. You dropped down to the 6s, and now we're the ones sucking out all the time. But that was a way better hand than he needed to make that play. I would not shove super wide here if it was folded to me, but Queen Jack, because these other two guys have very small stacks about to get blinded out, but Queen Jack is too strong to let go, and Kelvin's not going to want to put a big dent in the stack without a pretty decent hand. I'll just shove that. The Kings, not to get timed, I'll just, I don't know, just min raise, make some kind of small raise that he can come over top of, or that I win immediately. And Birdman definitely needs some kind of a hand to play, it looks like. So the way we're going to use that information is when he does come in for a raise or an aggressive play, we'll give him a little more credit than we would a really aggressive guy. We could have let out that flop with our good shot, but if he had checked behind, we would have gotten a draw to a solid straight. Here with the queen 10 and about 7 blinds, we're just going to shove. We'll do that with most queens, any king. Again, he gives us a walk. This ace-9, okay, we're in the money in that table. We would have called any bet there. There's no way we can do that. Queen 4 is debatable. 7-6, since we're now in the money and we can really threaten Kelvin, it's pretty debatable. Anything stronger would certainly push. That could have been pushed. Again, we're really looking to make sure we don't make big mistakes. So if you can avoid big mistakes, you're going to come out pretty nicely ahead in the long run, particularly when you're multi-tabling. And we really don't think we've made any big mistakes here. So that is the key here, to play solid and avoid any really, and when I say big mistake, I mean if you were to look at Wizard, an equity difference of around 1% would be a really big mistake. Okay, this King A, we're just going to shove. There's 1,500 sitting on the table. Kelvin hasn't shown any strength just by limping, and I'm just going to come in and hope for the best. That's a really weak way he played as far as he limps and then calls a big all-in bet. There are very few hands, even if I'm bluffing, that he's going to be a big favorite to. The best case scenario really is 2 overcards. So if he had shoved it, I think that would have been a fine play. I think the way he played it, though, was really poor. So there we go. Now we have a $6 player playing like more like I'd expect. Sorry about that. Let's try to get a bigger table here for the remaining marathon match against the Birdman. Ooh, a little too big there, my bad. Okay, now we've got the 7-8. I'm going to make a raise. That looks like it could be for value, the kind of non-all-in I talk about in SNG strategy. And suited 7-9, we could complete, we could shove. One thing that also I haven't made any small raises yet, this isn't a good default play, but sometimes when you come in with a really unexpected play relative to what you've been doing, you'll get more credit. And if he had restolen us there, particularly since he's a passive player, we could give him enough credit and just lay it down. So that's slightly a fancy play that we were more doing because we hadn't come in for small raises yet, and he could very well give us credit. Okay, now we have a 10 high with about 7 blinds and chips, and that I think is a marginal shove. And we don't draw out on him. That's really too bad. I mean, how can we not suck out? I don't know. Anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed me for tabling the $6 games on Full Tilt, and I really look forward to hearing your feedback. And all right, have a good one. Signing off.